Imagine a forgotten empire, one so vast that it stretched from the frozen tundras of Siberia to the deserts of Central Asia, from the gates of Europe to the mountains of China. Imagine a civilization so advanced that it constructed architectural marvels beyond our comprehension. Imagine an empire so powerful that it had to be erased. At least, that's what some would have you believe. For centuries, European maps labeled the vast lands of Eurasia as Tartary. To Western scholars, this was a region of mystery, a land inhabited by nomads, warriors, and strange cultures. But in reality, Tartary was never an empire. It was a cartographic convenience, a label used by Europeans to describe lands they did not fully understand. Yet today, a different story is spreading online. According to some, Great Tartaria was a global superpower, more advanced than any civilization of its time, before it was deliberately wiped from history. Proponents of the theory point to architectural anomalies, old maps, and historical oddities to support their claims. Some go even further, suggesting that Tartaria was erased after a cataclysmic mud flood, burying entire cities and allowing modern nations to rewrite history in their favor. It's a compelling story, one that taps into deep-seated distrust of mainstream narratives. But does the evidence support it? The real history of Tartary. To understand how this myth came to be, we must first understand what Tartary actually was. The lands labeled Tartary were home to numerous ethnic groups, cultures, and empires over the centuries. The Mongols, under Genghis Khan, carved out the largest contiguous empire in history, stretching from China to Eastern Europe. The Golden Horde, a Mongol successor state, ruled over much of modern-day Russia, Ukraine, and Kazakhstan. Meanwhile, the Timurid Empire, founded by Tamerlane, controlled large portions of Central Asia and Persia. These groups were not a single unified empire, but a collection of powerful states, each with its own rulers, cities, and cultures. The Silk Road connected them to the rest of the world, facilitating trade between China, Persia, India, and Europe. Cities like Samarkand, Bukhara, and Kashgar became centers of learning and commerce, filled with scholars, astronomers, and traders exchanging ideas across continents. But to European cartographers of the 16th to 18th centuries, these lands remain vague and mysterious. Instead of accurately mapping the dozens of nations and khanates that existed, they labeled the entire region as Tartary. Over time, subcategories emerged. Muscovite Tartary, ruled by Russia, Chinese Tartary, controlled by the Qing dynasty, and independent Tartary, Central Asia. As Russian and Chinese influence grew, these names disappeared from maps. The Russian Empire gradually conquered Siberia, assimilating its indigenous peoples, while the Qing dynasty expanded into Mongolia and Xinjiang. By the 19th century, the concept of Tartary had faded into history, not erased, but simply replaced by more accurate geopolitical divisions. And yet, in the 21st century, the idea of Great Tartaria emerged, not as a historical truth, but as a conspiracy theory. The Tartaria conspiracy, a lost empire, or a misinterpretation. The modern Tartaria myth claims that mainstream history is a fabrication, that a once powerful civilization was erased from the record books. But where did this theory come from? The roots of the Tartaria conspiracy lie in the internet age, particularly on platforms like 4chan, Reddit, and YouTube. Around the 2010s, scattered posts and videos began questioning old maps, photos, and architecture, suggesting that history as we know it had been manipulated. Three main claims emerged. 1. The architecture of Tartaria. Proponents of the theory argue that neoclassical buildings, especially those with domes, columns, and grand designs, are remnants of Tartarian architecture. Structures such as St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow, the grand buildings of the Chicago World's Fair, and the intricate star forts found worldwide are all cited as evidence. But these buildings have well-documented histories. St. Basil's Cathedral was built under Ivan the Terrible in the 16th century. The Chicago World's Fair structures, designed by Western architects in 1893, were intentionally temporary and later dismantled. Star forts, meanwhile, were a military innovation of the Renaissance designed to withstand cannon fire. 2. The mud flood theory. Some theorists claim that many historical buildings are partially buried, with lower floors hidden underground, suggesting a massive worldwide flood covered entire cities. This event, they claim, wiped out Tartaria, allowing modern governments to rewrite history. But urban planning explains these occurrences. Over time, cities naturally accumulate layers of soil, raising street levels. In places like Istanbul, Rome, and St. Petersburg, older streets and buildings often end up underground, not due to a mud flood, but because of centuries of reconstruction and urban expansion. 3. The Great Wall of China and the Tartarian War. One of the more outlandish claims is that the Great Wall of China was not built to keep out the Mongols, but to keep the Tartarians inside. The theory suggests that China and the West conspired to trap Tartaria, then systematically destroy its influence. In reality, the Great Wall was built in phases over centuries, with early walls dating back to the 7th century BCE. It was constructed by various Chinese dynasties, most notably the Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, to protect against Mongol and other northern invasions. Its watchtowers and defensive features all face outward, confirming its purpose as a defensive structure, not a prison for a non-existent empire. Why do people believe in Tartaria? So why does this theory persist, despite overwhelming historical evidence? Distrust of mainstream narratives. Many who believe in Tartaria also believe in other conspiracy theories, such as flat Earth or hidden technologies. The idea that history has been manipulated feeds into a broader distrust of governments, academia, and institutions. Architectural amnesia. Modern cities look vastly different from those of the past. Many people see grand historical buildings and assume they couldn't have been built by the civilizations credited with them, underestimating the architectural prowess of past societies. The internet and echo chambers. The internet allows misinformation to spread rapidly. YouTube, TikTok, and alternative history forums create self-reinforcing communities where skepticism of mainstream history is encouraged and counter-evidence is dismissed. A desire for mystery. People are naturally drawn to lost civilizations and forbidden knowledge. The idea that there was a secret, advanced empire hidden from us is more exciting than the reality. That history is well documented, though complex. The truth behind the myth. Tartaria was never an empire, never a lost civilization, just a name on old maps. The Mongols, Tatars, and the many peoples of Central Asia built real histories, fought real wars, and shaped the world in ways that continue to influence modern nations. Today, the lands once labeled Tartary are home to nations like Russia, Mongolia, China, and Kazakhstan, each with its own rich heritage. The Silk Road still influences trade and geopolitics. The descendants of the Mongols still live in Mongolia and Inner Asia. The real history of this region is far more fascinating than any conspiracy theory, because sometimes the truth is stranger and grander than fiction. What do you think? History is filled with mysteries, but not all of them are what they seem. Do you believe in the lost empire of Tartaria, or do you think it's just another internet myth? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into history and myth, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. There's always more to uncover. Stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.